2 years ago, Zillionaire Doe was living every trap rapper's dream. Millions from moving pounds, a blowing rap career, and the whole city of Dallas behind him. But today, the feds are building a RICO case, his big brother's locked up, and his whole empire is crumbling. How did a kid from South Dallas go from selling grams in high school to becoming one of the most watched rappers in Texas, only to have it all come crashing down? It's your boy, and today we're breaking down the real story of Zillionaire Doe, a story of ambition, loyalty, and the dangerous game of mixing street money with rap dreams. Hi, I'm back with another investigation into the streets and the music industry. Today we're diving into one of the most complex stories in modern hip-hop, the rise of Zillionaire Doe, and how his transition from drug kingpin to rap star may have sealed his fate. To understand Zillionaire Doe's story, you got to understand South Dallas. This ain't the suburbs, fam. We're talking about one of the most notorious areas in Texas, where poverty and opportunity collide in the most dangerous ways. Born Rodri Moore in 1998, Doe came into this world already fighting against the odds. South Dallas has been the breeding ground for hustlers, killers, and dreamers for decades, and Doe was about to become all three. Growing up, Doe's household was different from most kids in the hood. His daddy was already in the music game, not as a rapper, but as a promoter and executive type. His big brother JJ was making moves in the streets and the studio. The family had a recording studio right in the house, with engineers and artists coming through 24/7. But here's the thing that most people don't understand. Being around music don't automatically make you want to rap. For young Doe, all that studio was just background noise. He had his eyes on something else entirely. I've been around music my whole life since I was born. Doe would later explain in interviews, but I never wanted to do music. It was just so normal to me. Music was like nothing. You know what I'm saying? Instead, Doe was drawn to the streets, and not just any streets, the legendary Blue House on Malcolm X Boulevard where his daddy had set up shop. This wasn't some crack house operation. This was organized, systematic, and profitable as hell. By the time Doe was in middle school, he was already learning the game from the best teachers money could buy, his own family. But let's talk about his education first, because this is where you start to see the pattern that would define his whole life. Doe didn't go to some hood school in South Dallas. Nah, his big brother JJ had gone to Skyline High School, one of the more prestigious schools in the district, and Doe was determined to follow in those footsteps. My big brother went to Skyline. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to follow my big brother's footsteps. Doe explained. It's like you from South Dallas, but you go to Skyline. It's more like a statement because Skyline is like Theopidity School. You know what I'm saying? I'm from South Dallas, but I go to Skyline. This decision would prove crucial because it put Doe in a unique position. He had access to kids with money, kids whose parents weren't watching their every move, kids who wanted to experiment with drugs but didn't know where to get them. Doe saw an opportunity and he took it. By 8th grade, Doe was already driving to school without a license. Not because he was rebellious, but because he was conducting business. He had set up a sophisticated operation that would make most adult dealers jealous. In his Suburban, he had a custom stash spot right in the middle console, a hidden compartment where he kept his inventory organized in sandwich bags, 15G at a time. I used to have like a little stash spot. I had a Suburban. You know what I'm saying? I used to park over there by G Building in the Tahoe. It's like a stash right here in the middle of the cup holder, Doe recalled. So I put my grams in there, 15 bags inside a sandwich bag. When the passing periods come, people meet me at my truck. I'ma get you together, then I'm going to go to class like nothing happened. This wasn't some small-time operation either. Doe had established a network that included a worker who operated at a spot on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Doe would drop off 2 zips, ounces, and collect $400 profit by the end of the day. For a high school kid, that was serious money. But it was just the beginning. The phone operation was where Doe really showed his business acumen. While other kids were worried about homework and girls, Doe was running a sophisticated stolen phone ring. He had identified a market inefficiency and exploited it perfectly. Kids would steal phones, sell them to Doe for cheap, and he would flip them to agents who paid top dollar. I used to buy all like locked phones, and Doe explained, people will go steal iPhones. I got the agents that's gonna buy them for the high price, so I buy them cheap from the people that just stealth them. For them, it's free money anyway. Depending on what phone it is, I might give you 50, 100, 200. The max I'm giving you is 200 probably for the maxes. Taking them to my people, they're going to give me $400. The math was simple but effective. Buy for $200, sell for $400. Do that 4 times a day after basketball practice, and you're looking at $200 profit daily. For a teenager, this was life-changing money, but it also came with life-changing risks. The first time Doe got jammed up was over a phone deal gone wrong. A kid at school had his phone stolen, and when he reported it, the trail led back to Doe. This was his introduction to the juvenile justice system, and more importantly, it was his first lesson in how snitching could destroy. Everything you built the kid go tell, you know what? I'm saying, and once they tell I bought the phone, I had already bought the phone from the person. In the midst of that, they asked him who did he sell the phone to. He told them he do remember that was the first time I ever got jammed up doing some. His coach tried to save him, begging the principal not to kick him out of school. But Doe couldn't help himself. Within weeks, he was back to moving phones. And when he got caught again, that was it. His coach was done with him. Coach was fed up with me. Tired with them phones? That had got bad the second time, Doe admitted. But here's what's crucial to understand. These weren't just teenage mistakes. These were calculated risks that Doe was taking because he had already identified his path in life. While other kids were dreaming about college and careers, Doe was building a criminal enterprise, and the money was too good to stop. Act 2, The Rise, Building an Empire. After graduating from Skyline in 2019, Doe made a decision that would define the next chapter of his life. While his classmates were heading to college, he was heading deeper into the streets. But this wasn't some desperate move by a kid with no options. Doe had options. His family had money, connections, and legitimate businesses. He chose the streets because that's where he saw the biggest opportunity. I'm trying to rank up in the streets what I'm doing. Doe explained. There's levels to everything. So I was on this level in what I was hustling. I'm trying to get to that next level hustling. If I was selling, let's say I'm scoring pounds and busting them down. I'm trying to get to where I could distribute the... This is where Doe's story gets really interesting because he wasn't just some corner boy trying to make a quick buck. He was thinking like a CEO looking at market expansion, supply chain management, and profit maximization. The phone operation had taught him about buying low and selling high. The school dealing had taught him about customer service and reliability. Now he was ready to scale up. The transition from retail to wholesale is where most street entrepreneurs fail. It requires more capital, more connections, and exponentially more risk. But Doe had advantages that most didn't. His family's connections in the music industry meant he was around successful people who understood business. His daddy's promotion work meant there was always cash flow in the house. And his big brother JJ was already making moves that dope. By 2020, Doe had established himself as a serious player in the South Dallas drug trade. He wasn't just moving grams anymore. He was moving pounds. The profits were insane, but so were the risks. This is when the feds first started paying attention. According to sources close to the investigation, Doe's operation was sophisticated enough to catch federal attention. He wasn't just selling drugs. He was running a distribution network that moved product across state lines. The money was coming in so fast that Doe had to get creative about how to clean it. I stacked my first 10,000 parlaying. Doe remembered from his high school days, but by 2020 he was dealing with numbers that made $10,000 look like lunch money. The challenge wasn't making money anymore. It was figuring out what to do with all of it. This is where most drug dealers make their biggest mistake. They start flashing cash, buying jewelry, getting cars they can't explain. But Doe was smarter than that. He had been watching his daddy's music business for years, and he understood something that most street dudes don't. Legitimate businesses can wash dirty money better than any other method. The real estate investment started around this time. Doe began purchasing properties in South Dallas not just as investments, but as a way to legitimize his income. On paper, he was a young entrepreneur making smart real estate moves. In reality, he was using drug money to build a portfolio that would make his wealth appear legal, but the feds weren't stupid. They had been watching the Blue House for years, and they knew that the level of success Doe was showing didn't match any legitimate income sources. The surveillance started intensifying, and Doe's name began appearing in federal databases as a person of interest. The turning point came in late 2021 when Doe's operation reached its peak. He was moving serious weight, had multiple properties, and was generating millions in revenue. But he was also getting sloppy. The success had made him confident. Maybe too confident. He was starting to believe his own hype, thinking he was untouchable. That's when his friend BFG Strap approached him with an idea that would change everything: the transition to rap. The conversation happened in LAX airport in September 2022. Doe was walking through the terminal when he heard someone call out, "Little Doe." It was BFG Strap, a rapper from Dallas who had been making noise in the local scene. They had known each other since childhood, but this meeting would prove to be life-changing. He like, "Man, why you ain't pull up on me?" This and that. Like, "Man, I was busy, brother." "My fault," this and that. He like, "Man, I'ma put you on my manager. I want you to start rapping this and that," Doe recalled. At first, Doe wasn't interested. He was making too much money in the streets to worry about rap. Music had always been around him, but it had never been his passion. He was a businessman, not an artist. But Strap was persistent. "Hit my DM like, 'Man, I want you to rap. You're going to blow up.' You know what I'm saying? Hit my manager right now and tell him about you. You're going to do a whole tape this and that. I'm telling you, going to pop." Do remember. 2 days later, BFG Strap was dead. The murder of BFG Strap sent shockwaves through the Dallas rap scene. Strap had been one of the most promising young artists in the city, and his death left a void that nobody knew how to fill. For Doe, it was a wake-up call about the fragility of life and the importance of leaving a legacy. 2 days after he DM'd me, my homie passed away, and that was my motivation. Doe explained, "I was just with bro. I just seen him. You know, we just talked. I'm like, damn, any day. You never know how life turned out. People can leave, die any day." I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna go just start this." But Doe's decision to start rapping wasn't just about honoring his friend's memory. It was a calculated business move. He had millions in drug money that needed to be cleaned. And the music industry provided the perfect vehicle for money laundering. Record labels, touring, merchandise, streaming revenue. All of these could be used to legitimize illegal income. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Doe would use his drug money to fund a rap career, creating the appearance of legitimate income while actually washing dirty money through the music business. He could pay for expensive videos, studio time, and promotion, all while claiming the money came from his successful music career. The music industry takeover. When Doe decided to enter the rap game in October 2022, he didn't do it halfway. This wasn't some kid with a dream and a cheap microphone. This was a millionaire drug dealer with unlimited resources and a clear vision of what he wanted to accomplish. "Everything I do, I'm doing it out my pocket with my own money." Doe explained, "I flew out my cameraman from Detroit. I used to sit up on YouTube listening to Detroit, watching that on YouTube, seeing who's shooting that everything I do. I'm doing it for real. I don't do nothing for play, I'm going to pay my people, right?" The first video cost him $5,000, a massive investment for most new artists, but pocket change for someone moving the weight Doe was moving. He rented luxury cars, bought expensive outfits, and hired top-tier production teams. The result was Life of a Young Boss, a video that looked like it came from an established artist, not someone who had just started rapping. The strategy worked immediately. QCP, one of the most respected names in hip-hop media, liked the video within hours of its release. This wasn't luck. This was the result of Doe's business acumen and unlimited budget creating content that couldn't be ignored. QCP had came and liked it. That was like, damn, that was some motivation. Like, keep going, like, damn, this might can do something Doe remembered. But the real breakthrough came with D-Boy Dreams. This track wasn't just a song, it was a mission statement Doe was telling the world. Exactly who he was and where he came from, but he was doing it with production. Values that most major label artists couldn't afford. The song caught the attention of DJ 240, who started playing it in Dallas clubs. Within weeks, it was being played in strip clubs across the city, with dancers and patrons tagging Doe on social media. The organic buzz was real, but it was built on a foundation of drug money and strategic investments. As soon as I dropped it, the DJ played it. My homie 240 was pushing it, pushing that. He really was the first person to really push that he worked in the club. So soon as that dropped, he was spinning that Doe explained. This is where Doe's story gets really complex because his success wasn't just about having money to invest. He was actually talented. The music was connecting with people on a real level because Doe was rapping about experiences he had actually lived. He wasn't some fake street rapper. He was the real deal and people could feel it. The vlogs were another masterstroke. While other rappers were trying to maintain mystery around their lives, Doe was documenting everything. He showed people his cars, his jewelry, his lifestyle, all funded by drug money but presented as the fruits of his rap success. The transparency created a connection with fans that most artists never achieve. When I got in the game, I did it like that. Like, because I know what I wanted to hear. I know what I wanted to see. So it was easy. Like, I'm just gonna do the I wanna see, the I wanted when I was just a consumer. Doe explained. By early 2023, Doe had built a legitimate buzz in the Dallas rap scene. His videos were getting millions of views. His songs were being played in clubs across Texas, and major labels were starting to pay attention. But he was also getting attention from people he didn't want watching him, federal agents. The federal investigation intensifies. While Doe was building his rap career, the feds were building their case. The Drug Enforcement Administration had been watching the Blue House operation for years, and Doe's sudden emergence as a successful rapper with expensive videos and luxury cars raised red flags. The investigation, which sources say began as early as 2020, focused on a sophisticated drug trafficking organization operating out of South Dallas. Doe wasn't just a target. He was believed to be one of the key figures in an operation that was moving significant quantities of narcotics across state lines. The feds had a problem, though. Doe was smart. Unlike most drug dealers who get caught flashing cash they can't explain, Doe had created a legitimate business, his rap career, that could theoretically account for his wealth. The music videos, the streaming revenue, the show money, all of it could be used to explain where his money was coming from. But federal investigators aren't easily fooled. They began analyzing Doe's spending patterns, looking at when he made major purchases and comparing them to his music career timeline. What they found was troubling. Doe was spending money at levels that far exceeded what his music career could generate, and he was doing it before his biggest songs even came out. The real estate purchases were particularly suspicious. Doe had been buying properties in South Dallas, often paying cash for deals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. For someone who claimed to be a new rapper just starting to make money, this level of real estate investment didn't make sense. According to sources familiar with the investigation, federal agents began conducting surveillance on Doe's properties and associates. They were building a RICO case, which meant they weren't just looking at drug dealing. They were looking at an entire criminal organization that included money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy charges. The feds also started looking at Doe's family connections. His big brother, JJ, had been involved in the music industry for years, but he also had connections to the same South Dallas drug trade that Doe was allegedly involved in. The Blue House wasn't just Doe's operation. It was a family business that had been running for years. The Yawati connection. In late 2023, something happened that would change Doe's life forever and potentially seal his fate. Yawati, one of the most successful rappers and label executives in the game, reached out to Doe about signing to CMG Collective Music Group. For Doe, this was the ultimate validation. CMG was home to artists like Moneybagg Yo, 42 Dugg, and ESTG, all rappers who had successfully transitioned from street life to mainstream success. A deal with Gotti could legitimize everything Doe had been building. Long before I even started rapping, I told myself I wouldn't sign with nobody. I stay independent. I'm on some Nipsey Hussle independent grind. Build the brand. Build the legacy independent. The only people I would sign with is QC or Yo Gotti. Doe had said the negotiations were intense. Gotti flew D to Miami, where they spent hours in the studio at Hit Factory talking about music, business, and the future. For Gotti, Doe represented something special. A young artist with unlimited resources, real street credibility, and the hunger to succeed at the highest level. But for the feds, the CMG deal represented something else entirely. A potential money laundering operation on a massive scale. If Doe signed a major label deal, he could potentially wash millions of dollars in drug money through legitimate music industry channels. The deal was finalized in January 2024, but it wasn't announced until 14 months later. During that time, Doe continued operating as an independent artist while secretly being signed to one of the biggest labels in hip-hop. The delay in announcement was strategic. It allowed Doe and fanbase while CMG figured out the best way to position him in the market. I was anxious as hell. I think it was perfect timing. It's like 14 months in the game, so I kinda said 14 months. But time going by, I'm telling people I'm signed, man. They probably think I'm lying. So I'm like, man, I'm ready to show them, Doe explained. The announcement and immediate aftermath. January 21st, 2025 was supposed to be the biggest day of Doe's life. The CMG announcement was finally happening, and he had planned a massive celebration in South Dallas. The whole hood came out, hundreds of people wearing the metallic CMG chains that Doe had bought for the occasion. January 21st, the day we all been waiting for. I had signed a year ago. We've been waiting on this for forever. This day was like the championship final game Super Bowl, Doe remembered. The celebration was everything Doe had dreamed of. He pulled up in a Lamborghini, popped $10,000 worth of Ace of Spades champagne in front of the Blue Store on Malcolm X Boulevard, and showed the whole world that a kid from South Dallas had made it to the highest levels of the music industry. But the celebration was short-lived. Exactly 1 month later, on February 25th, 2025, the feds made their move. Doe was in the studio working on new music when his girlfriend texted him that police were at their door. At first, he thought it might be a robbery attempt, people pretending to be law enforcement to gain entry to his house. But when his friend went to check it out and sent back pictures of people in business suits, Doe knew this was the real deal. I call one of my partners. I'm like, bro, go check on my spot real quick. See what's going on. My girl said the police there. He pull up, go check it out, send me pictures. People in business suits, and I'm like, damn, what the Doe recalled. The raids were comprehensive and coordinated. Federal agents hit multiple locations simultaneously. Doe's houses, his big brother's place, the Blue House, and several other properties connected to their organization. They seized cars, cash, jewelry, and anything else that could be connected to the alleged drug trafficking operation. Raid my house, bro. Raid both of my houses. Took my cars, took cash, took jewelry, took clothes, did me bad, tried to leave me defeated, Doe said. But the most devastating part wasn't the material losses. It was the arrest of his big brother, JJ. The feds had been building their case for years, and they had enough evidence to charge JJ with federal drug trafficking offenses. For Doe, this was personal. His big brother had been his mentor, his business partner, and his closest friend. The RICO investigation unfolds. What the public didn't know at the time was that the February raids were just the beginning. Federal prosecutors were building a RICO case that could potentially bring down an entire criminal organization. RICO racketeer, influenced, and corrupt organizations charges are the federal government's most powerful tool for prosecuting organized crime, and they carry sentences that can effectively end lives. According to sources familiar with the investigation, the feds believed Doe was part of a continuing criminal enterprise that had been operating for years. The charges being considered include drug trafficking, money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy, all of which carry mandatory minimum sentences that could put Doe away for decades. The money laundering aspect is particularly serious because it involves Doe's rap career. Federal prosecutors believe that Doe used his music industry success to wash millions of dollars in drug proceeds, turning dirty money into clean income through record sales, touring, and other legitimate business activities. The real estate investments are also under scrutiny. Doe had purchased multiple properties in South Dallas, often paying cash for deals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Prosecutors believe these purchases were made with drug money and represent a systematic effort to legitimize illegal proceeds. But the most damaging evidence may be Doe's own words. His songs, interviews, and social media posts have been analyzed by federal investigators who believe they contain admissions of criminal activity. In the rap game, keeping it real is often rewarded, but in federal court, those same admissions can be used as evidence of guilt. The investigation has also expanded to include other members of the New Dallas movement. Federal agents are looking at whether the collective success of Dallas rappers like Montana 300-700 Trap and others might be connected to organized criminal activity. The concern is that multiple artists are using similar methods to wash drug money through the music industry. The psychological toll. The federal investigation has taken a massive psychological toll on Doe conducted after the raids. He appeared visibly shaken by the experience. The confident, charismatic young man who had taken over the Dallas rap scene was replaced by someone who seemed to understand for the first time the real consequences of his choices. Mentally, I was like, I'm steady, trying to push bad steady happening. Steady happening. I'm just like, man, bro, we just did the announcement. The world trying to see my new, I can't even get in my right creative mind. All over the place mentally. Doe admitted the timing couldn't have been worse. Just as Doe was reaching the peak of his rap career with a major label deal and national attention, his past was catching up to him in the most serious way possible. The stress of knowing that federal agents were building a case against him while trying to maintain his music career created an impossible situation. The arrest of his big brother JJ was particularly devastating. JJ had been more than just family. He had been Doe's business partner, mentor, and closest confidant. Losing him to the federal system while trying to navigate his own legal troubles left Doe feeling isolated and vulnerable. I explained to him, like, Man, I thought everybody was happy for us, bro. I thought they was proud of what we was doing. And when the news came out, all this I seen, I'm like, damn, bro. They ready to see this crumble, bro. They on blogs laughing. Doe said the public reaction to the raids was mixed. Some fans supported doing him as a victim of federal overreach. Others saw the investigation as proof that his success had been built on illegal activity. The hip-hop community was divided, with some artists distancing themselves from Doe, while others showed solidarity. The current situation, as of late 2025, Doe remains free on bond while federal prosecutors continue building their case. He has not been formally charged, but sources close to the investigation say indictments could come at any time. The grand jury process is ongoing, and federal agents continue to gather evidence and interview witnesses. Doe has tried to maintain his music career while dealing with the legal pressure. He released his August 15th mixtape as scheduled, but the project received less attention than his previous work. The federal investigation has cast a shadow over everything he does, making it difficult for him to promote his music or book shows. The financial impact has been severe. The asset forfeit process has frozen much of Doe's wealth, leaving him unable to access money that he claims is legitimate income from his music career. The expensive lifestyle that he had built, the cars, jewelry, and real estate, has largely been seized by federal agents. But perhaps most importantly, Doe seems to have gained a new perspective on his choices and their consequences. In recent interviews, he has spoken about the importance of freedom and the mistakes he made in mixing his street life with his music career. Ain't nothing like the freedom. I could be in jail right now behind bars doing federal time. But I got opportunity. I'm free. I'm alive. I can get the back. I can make more money today, make more money tomorrow, go back, redo it again. I buy more cars, buy more clothes, so that we going to get that back 1,000 more times, Doe said. The broader implications. The Zillionaire Doe case represents something larger than just one rapper's legal troubles. It highlights the complex relationship between hip-hop culture and criminal activity, and the challenges that artists face when trying to transition from street life to legitimate success. For years, rap music has celebrated the drug dealer lifestyle, with artists like Jay-Z, Notorious B.I., and countless others building careers on stories of their criminal pasts. But Doe's case shows what happens when the past doesn't stay in the past. When federal investigators decide that an artist's success is built on ongoing criminal activity rather than legitimate business. The money laundering aspect is particularly significant because it represents a new frontier in federal prosecution of hip-hop artists. Traditionally, rappers who got in trouble with the law were charged with specific crimes, drug dealing, weapons possession, or violence. But the RICO charges being considered in Doe's case suggest that prosecutors are now looking at rap careers themselves as potential criminal enterprises. This has implications for the entire hip-hop industry. If federal prosecutors can successfully argue that a rap career is being used to launder drug money, it could set a precedent that affects how other artists operate. The line between celebrating street life and music and actually participating in criminal activity could become a legal distinction that determines whether artists face federal prosecution. The new Dallas movement, which Dee helped create, has also been affected by the investigation. Other artists in the collective have had to distance themselves from Doe to protect their own careers, showing how federal investigations can destroy not just individual artists, but entire musical movements. The lessons in legacy, regardless of how Doe's legal case ultimately resolves, his story offers important lessons about the intersection of street life and the music industry. His rise from South Dallas drug dealer to major label rapper represents both the opportunities and dangers that exist in modern hip-hop. The most obvious lesson is about the impossibility of completely separating criminal activity from legitimate business. Doe's attempt to use his rap career to wash drug money may have seemed like a smart business move, but it ultimately made him more vulnerable to federal prosecution, not less. The timing of his success also worked against him. If Doe had been able to transition completely out of street life before starting his rap career, his story might have been different. But the overlap between his drug dealing and his music career gave federal prosecutors the evidence they needed to argue that his entire success was built on criminal activity. The psychological toll of living a double life is another important aspect of Doe's story. The stress of maintaining a successful rap career while knowing that federal agents were building a case against him created an impossible situation that affected his mental health and creative output. Perhaps most importantly, Doe's story shows the importance of making clean breaks from criminal activity. The hip-hop industry has always celebrated artists who successfully transitioned from street life to legitimate success, but those transitions require completely abandoning criminal activity, not just adding legal income streams to illegal ones. The future. As this documentary is being completed, Zillionaire Doe's future remains uncertain. Federal prosecutors are still building their case, and it's unclear when or if formal charges will be filed. If charges are brought, Doe could face decades in federal prison under RICO statutes that are designed to dismantle criminal organizations. The music industry has largely moved on from Doe's story, with new artists emerging to fill the void left by his legal troubles. The New Dallas movement continues, but without its most prominent figure, it has lost much of its momentum and cultural impact. For Doe, the experience has been transformative. The confident young man who once believed he could successfully balance drug dealing and rap stardom has been replaced by someone who understands the real cost of his choices. Whether he gets the chance to apply those lessons depends on decisions being made in federal courtrooms and prosecutors' offices. The broader hip-hop community continues to grapple with the implications of Doe's case. Artists, label executives, and industry professionals are all watching to see how federal prosecutors handle cases where rap careers and criminal activity intersect. The outcome could influence how the entire industry operates going forward. Conclusion. The story of Zillionaire Doe is ultimately a cautionary tale about ambition, loyalty, and the dangerous game of mixing legitimate success with criminal activity. His rise from South Dallas drug dealer to major label rapper represents both the opportunities and perils that exist in modern hip-hop. Doe's talent was real, his business acumen was impressive, and his success was earned through hard work and strategic thinking. But his inability to completely separate his criminal past from his musical future may ultimately destroy everything he built. The federal investigation continues and Doe's fate remains uncertain. But his story has already become a part of hip-hop history. A reminder that in the music industry, as in the streets, every choice has consequences and some mistakes can't be undone. Whether Zillionaire Doe will be remembered as a cautionary tale or as another example of the system destroying young black success depends on how his legal case resolves. But regardless of the outcome, his story offers important lessons about the price of ambition and the impossibility of outrunning your past. The kid from South Dallas who dreamed of being a rap superstar achieved everything he wanted. Fame, money, respect, and a major label deal, but he may have lost his freedom in the process, proving that in the dangerous game of mixing street money with rap dreams, the house always wins in the end. For now, Zillionaire Doe remains free, making music and fighting federal charges that could end his career and his freedom. His story is still being written, but the lessons are already clear. Success built on criminal activity is never truly secure, and the federal government has resources that even the most successful drug dealers can't match. The rise and fall of Zillionaire Doe represents more than just one man's story. It's a reflection of the complex relationship between hip-hop culture and criminal activity, and a warning about the real cost of trying to have it both ways. In the end, Doe's greatest success may be serving as an example for the next generation of artists who face similar choices between the streets and the studio. The game is still being played, but the rules have changed, and for Zillionaire Doe, learning those new rules may have come too late.